you're driving a Ferrari or a Lamborghini, you're not going to complain about the fact that there's no ride comfort. You know, it's bumpy, it's noisy, the aircon isn't working very well, the sound system isn't very good. So what? It's not the point of the car.
Hey everyone, welcome to another episode of What You Wearing. I'm Helbert.
I'm Johnathan.
And today we're going to be talking about a very special and rare watch from your collection, Johnathan. This watch is called C3H5N3O9.
Yes, that is the exact name. You're one of very few who can actually spell it correct. So it's the chemical formula for nitroglycerine, and it's the name that MB&F and Urwerk decided to go with when they decided to create this brand more than 10 years ago, back in 2012, and created this brand online and decided to sell 24 watches.
So you mentioned that this is a collaboration between Urwerk and MB&F, right? Why didn't they just name it under, MB&F x Urwerk? Why create a new brand?
The reason that I read was that they had different retailers at the time, so having different retailers, it would have created an issue with distribution. So after Max had been working with Urwerk back in Harry Winston on the Opus 5, they enjoyed it very much and they wanted to work together again. And the way they could come out with the solution was actually to create a new brand, create that website, sell the watches, and then actually kill the brand afterwards.
I think it's important to remember that this watch came out in 2012, right? So back then, buying watches on the internet is not really a thing, let alone buying what was retail for this, like around 200,000 US dollar watch on the internet, sight unseen. This was a crazy proposition back in the day.
And I think that's part of the reason they were inspired to call this the nitroglycerine, because it was just so explosive. It was just mind-blowingly, none of it made sense. It's a big watch. It's a crazy looking watch. I think trends back then in 2012, people weren't into these spaceship looking watches. I think even e-commerce itself was in the very early stages, and to, as you mentioned, to say that these things were selling online for this kind of price range, it's kind of a crazy idea.
Onto the watch itself. When you look at it, you can immediately see influences of Max Büsser in the case. And I think the movement itself is made by Urwerk, right?
Yes. So this is for me, one of the best collab watches. I feel like a collab actually has to have the design language and input of both brands. So in this case, you have the signature 3D sculptural case shape of MB&F horological machines, which is the signature line for MB&F. And alternatively, you also have the Urwerk's different time-telling device with this rotary engine-inspired time-telling display. It truly is a marriage between the best things that make those two brands.
Yeah, and I think the two brands collaborating together also, push themselves to push the boundaries, right? For Urwerk, we know the brand which is famous for satellite type of displays or unconventional type of time display, but we've actually never seen them use this rotary engine type of layout in their own offerings. And for MB&F, so back in 2012, was the LM line out? I don't think it was, or maybe they had one out.
Yeah.
And it was mostly HM, so I think they had HM4 out back in the day. I forgot whether HM5 was out yet. So we haven't really seen this type of case shape yet.
No,
we have seen some articulating lugs on the HM4.
Yes.
But nowadays, when we look at it with the 2023 eyes, we know that this case shape is actually very similar to the HM10 Bulldog.
Yes, so often what I say is with this watch, it's actually the Star Wars, Darth Vader, Luke Skywalker, I'm your father moment.
I am your father.
And I've also had chances to speak with Max about that, and he has also silently admitted that he was heavily inspired by this nitro when developing the HM10.
That's amazing.
Yeah.
So tell us a bit of the story behind your correspondence with Max before your purchase of this watch.
When I first came across this watch, this was just mind-blowing. Like, it's just ridiculous. Like, how can you wear this on your wrist? It's so crazy, it's massive, you can't read the time. But I found myself constantly thinking about it. I came across a listing online, and a few months passed by and I was still thinking about the watch. And I reached out to Max because I was just curious about speaking to him, getting to know what he thought about the watch. And I reached out to him on Instagram, and I was so surprised that he responded. He very shortly, I think within a day, he responded. I said, hey, I've come across this watch, I'm thinking about buying it, but I'm worried about it being too big. And Max, being the gentleman he is, he just responded very nicely, very polite, and he was telling me that he only designs watches for his own small wrist. And then he sent me a wrist shot, he was telling me his wrist circumference, and I realized, oh, actually Max's wrist is actually quite similar to mine. And so if the founder is telling me that this is the way this was designed to look on his wrist, which looks very similar to mine, size similarity, then who am I to question that this design is too big or too small? Like, this is just the way it was meant to look. And that gave me the confidence to go ahead and buy this watch. Also online, it was actually listed in a different country. So yeah, I just took a leap of faith because I thought this watch is so niche, it's so rare, I might not get this chance to ever buy this ever again. So just took the leap of faith, and here we are.
So you took the same leap of faith that the original 24 owners of this watch did back in 2012. So
Yes.
Well done.
Thank you.
And I have to say, I absolutely love this watch. You know me, right? I like unconventional watches.
Yeah.
I like crazy case designs, and this is just a perfect amalgamation of both.
It's very infrequent that brands actually work together on such a piece, and very often these collaborations end up being only watch pieces or one-off for charity. And for two such important brands, I think pioneers of this 3D sculptural watch and alternative time-telling display, for them to then come together and create this, to go through all the R&D. I mean, this is a completely new case, completely new movement, and then also completely new brand. To go through all that trouble to produce this, it's just the risk they had to take. It's just not economical. So, you know, they're not making this to make the maximum amount of money. So I think this represents the top notch of independent horology for me, and it's a foundational piece of my collection.
I agree, and I often find that the best pieces are the ones that make no financial sense at all from the manufacturer's point of view.
Yeah,
that is. I think as much as I like looking at the rotary engine time display, I do find it a little bit hard to read.
Oh, for sure. The legibility is definitely an issue. But then again, I mean,
that's not why you're wearing the watch.
Exactly. That's not why you're wearing the watch. You know, it's, you know, as you've said to me many times, you know, if you're driving a Ferrari or a Lamborghini, you're not going to complain about the fact that there's no ride comfort. You know, it's bumpy, it's noisy, the aircon isn't working very well, the sound system isn't very good. So what? That's not the point of the car.
Exactly. It's the process of wearing it that you're enjoying.
Yeah.
Well, thank you very much for sharing this piece with all of our audience out there. It's definitely one of the most amazing pieces that I have seen. So, thank you.
Thank you.